Hey, Grant. This is reading pages 280, 81, 82, and 83. There are those who will turn innocent occasions to their advantage, Moody retorted in a menacing voice. It is my job to think of the dark wizards, do, Karkaroff, as you ought to remember. Alistair, said Dumbledore warningly. Harry wondered for a moment who he was speaking to. Then he realized Mad Eye could hardly be Moody's first name. Moody fell silent, though still surveying Karkaroff with satisfaction. Karkaroff's face was burning. How the situation arose, we do not know, said Dumbledore, speaking to everyone gathered in the room. It seems to me, however, that we have no choice but to accept it. Both Cedric and Harry will be chosen to compete in the tournament. This, therefore, they will do. But Dumbledore! My dear Madame Maxime, if you have an alternative, I would be delighted to hear it. Dumbledore waited, but Madame Maxime did not speak. She merely glared. She wasn't the only one either. Snape looked furious, Karkaroff livid. Bagman, however, looked rather excited. Well, shall we crack on then? He said, rubbing his hands together and smiling around the room. Got to give our champions the instructions, haven't we? Barty, want to do the honors? Mr. Crouch seemed to have come out of a deep revelry. Yes, he said. Instructions. Yes, the first task. He moved forward towards the firelight. Close up, Harry thought he looked ill. There were dark shadows beneath his eyes and a thin, papery look about his wrinkled skin that had not been there at the Quidditch World Cup. The first task is designed to test your daring, he told Harry, Cedric, Fleur, and Victor. So we are not going to be telling you what it is. Courage in the face of the unknown is the most important quality of a wizard. Very important. The first task will take place on November 24th, in front of the other students and a panel of judges. The champions are not permitted to ask for or accept help of any kind from their teachers to complete the tasks in the tournament. The champions will face the first challenge armed only with their wands. They will receive information about the second task when the first is over. Owing to the demand and time-consuming nature of the tournament, champions are exempted from end-of-year tests. Mr. Crouch turned to look at Dumbledore. I think that's all, is it, Albus? I think so, said Dumbledore, who was looking at Mr. Crouch with mild concern. Are you sure you wouldn't like to stay at Hogwarts tonight, Barty? No, Dumbledore, I must get back to the Ministry, said Mr. Crouch. It's very busy, very difficult at time at the moment. I've left young Weatherby in charge. Very enthusiastic, a little over-enthusiastic, if truth be told. You'll come and have a drink before you go, at least, said Dumbledore. Come on, Barty, I'm staying, said Bagman brightly. It's all happening at Hogwarts now, you know. Much more exciting here than at the office. I think not, Ludo, said Crouch with a touch of impatience. Professor Karkaroff, Madame Maxime, a nightcap, said Dumbledore. But Madame Maxime had already put her arm around Fleur's shoulder and was leading her swiftly out of the room. Harry could hear them both talking very fast in French as they went off to the great hall. Karkaroff beckoned to Crumb, and they too exited in silence. Harry, Cedric, I suggest you go up to bed, said Dumbledore, smiling at both of them. I'm sure Gryffindor and Hufflepuff will be waiting to celebrate you, and it would be shame to deprive them of that excellent excuse to make a great deal of mess and noise. Harry glanced at Cedric, who nodded, and they left together. The great hall was deserted now, the candles burned low and giving jagged smiles of the pumpkins an eerie, flickering quality. So, said Cedric with a slight smile, we're playing against each other again. I suppose, said Harry. He couldn't think of any way to say it. The inside of his head seemed to be in complete disarray, as though his brain had been ransacked. So, tell me, said Cedric as they reached the entrance hall, which was now lit only by torches in the absence of the goblet of fire. How did you get your name in? I didn't, said Harry, staring up at him. I didn't put it in. I was telling the truth. Ah, okay, said Cedric. Harry could tell Cedric didn't believe him. Well, see you then. Instead of going up to the marble staircase, Cedric headed down for the door on its right. Harry stood listening to go down the stone steps beyond it, then slowly started to climb the marble ones. Was anybody except Ron and Hermione going to believe him, and wouldn't they all think that he put himself in for the tournament? Yet how could anyone think that? He was facing competitors who had 3 years more magical education than he had. He was now facing tasks that not only sounded dangerous, but were performed in front of hundreds of people. Yes, he thought about it. He fantasized about it, but it had only been a joke, really. An idle sort of dream. He had never really seriously considered entering, but someone had considered it. Someone else wanted him in the tournament, and had made sure he'd entered. Why? To give him a treat? He didn't think so, somehow. To see him make a fool of himself? Were they likely to ever get their wish? But to get him killed? Maybe Moody was just his usual paranoid self. Couldn't somebody have put Harry's name in the goblet as a trick? A practical joke? Did anyone really want him dead? Harry was able to answer that one. Yes, someone wanted him dead. Someone wanted him dead ever since he had been a year old, Lord Voldemort. But how could Voldemort ensure that Harry's name got into the Goblet of Fire? Voldemort was supposed to be far away in a distant country, in hiding, alone, feeble, and powerless. Yet in that dream he had just before he had woken with the scar hurting, Voldemort had not only been alone, or had not been alone, he had been talking to Wormtail, plotting Harry's murder. Love you, buddy. Mwah.